We the lazy declare that we will recline when we feel inclined. And yes, we feel inclined.
We answered our kids' questions all day. It's our time to prioritize, no priorities.
Why?
Because
we put in back-to-back doubles. So now we'll be putting in extra OT right here.
We've checked off our to-do list.
Now we're checking off our to-don't list.
we the lazy are taking back lazy.
By getting comfy on our Lazy Boy furniture.
Lazy Boy. Long live the lazy.
When storms start to blow and danger strikes, we come together to face any challenge as a community. And when trouble hits our county, HCFL Alert is your #1 source for information. HCFL Alert is with you before, during, and after the storm. To sign up, visit hcfl.gov/HCFL Alert so we know how and when to notify you about local emergencies. The safest way through bad weather is together.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Chief Meteorologist Denis Phillips. Heat, still the hot topic of weather conversation, right?
Streaming from the ABC Action Weather Center in Studio A, this is Denis Phillips Live, brought to you by Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries. Long live the lazy, and by HCFL Alert.
How you doing, everybody? Tuesday night edition of Denis Phillips Live. We have got a lot to talk about tonight. So, fam, thanks for tuning in. We have got severe thunderstorms, potential little tornado that developed. The weather never got a warning, but I got an email just a minute ago from a viewer. I believe it was in Parrish, and the video that he sent looks like a tornado to me. So, may actually forward it to the Weather Service. See what they think. It was around 5:30 this afternoon. But we have got lots to talk about in terms of the tropics. We've got our rainy season, which is in full force. And again, but before we do that, I'm getting better slowly. Still coughing up a storm, but not quite as much as before. But I'll tell you, I mean, I told you guys weeks ago, I mean, just before we left for our trip to Delaware, I tested positive for COVID. And man, I've had it 3 times now. The first 2 were nothing for me. 3 days, 4 days, I was fine. This has just beat me up. I am still just, negative and all, but man, I just feel like I got hit by a Mack truck and getting there. So my goal is by the year 2034, I'll be feeling better, or at least by the time hurricane season gets cranking up, which may be sooner than later, in spite of the fact that whenever you post that on social, you'll get a few people, I don't want to get into it. Anyway, how goes it, everybody? We've got Anna Maria, good to see you, as always. Bridget, Jules, you got the crew at the very top of the chat sheet here. You've got Michelle from Madeira, Ren in Tampa, Jane in Manatee, Mary in Lillman. How's it going, Mary? Maya, good to see you. Ormond Beach is in the house with Hagen. Steve in Lakeland. Snoopy, Snoopy, where are you from? And please elaborate on how the nickname, because I don't think your real name is Snoopy. I don't think so. Possible, but I don't think so. Priscilla, good to see you. Pat in Largo. Largo Bubble, got some rain today, didn't you? Newport Richie's in the house. Carrie, how about that amazing rainbow that you guys had in the NPR just a few minutes ago? Not a new hoodie. This is the OG hoodie. Thanks for asking. This is the original Rule Number 7 design because I left my blue one at home. I'm like, oh, man. So this is the one from, 4 years ago. But because you mentioned that, and I did, Sean, how goes it, my man? Because you mentioned it, I want to mention, this is important. This is just for y'all right now, okay? Actually, it isn't, but I want you to know about it because this is pretty sweet. So we get our clothing made on a site called Teespring. It's actually Spring now. Well, they sent me an email that said that they're taking 20% off of everything for the next 3 days. Everything. All of our, so I'm going to show you all of the, now not the Etsy stuff, just the clothing stuff. And actually they have some non-clothing stuff too. But this is on my Facebook page with the link. But you've got your tees, you've got your tanks, you've got hats, you've got bags, you've got hoodies, you've got pint glasses, you've got water bottles, all that stuff is 20% off. And the way you do it is by typing in the promo code HEATWAVE20. So this is on my Facebook page at the top. You'll see summer heat sale, 20% off all clothing and merchandise. And then you click on the link, and here's the link, and it takes you to, like, this is just the, I mean, look at that. There's your race colors there with the blue racerback tank. But, I mean, we've pretty much got every logo of Florida stuff that you'd be interested in. And again, as always, proceeds benefit Children's Miracle Network. Proceeds benefit Feeding Tampa Bay. Look, here's the water bottles. There's some of them on there. There's some mugs. There's all the, look, there's the FSU, the UF, the UCF, the Rays, the new logo, the old logos, and these are all 20% off. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to start buying it myself. By the way, I just bought this khaki one a couple of days ago because I lost mine on my trip. I wish I had known that because I would have got 20% off of it. But you've got all these hats, you've got bags, you've got stationery, you've got pillows, you've got apparel, all this stuff, tank tops, hoodies. And again, it's all 20% off, and proceeds benefit local charities as well as, you know, Feeding Tampa Bay and Children's Miracle Network. So since someone just mentioned that, great deal. I'm going to be stocking up. I'm probably going to spend $1,000 on this site today, but the proceeds benefit the local charities. So that's a good thing. It's a win-win. I'll have some of the new stuff, and it'll probably be here for a couple of weeks, planning on getting an FSU one for my son, UF one for my daughter and my son, UCF. No, we don't have anybody at UCF. USF for my other son. So anyway, there you go. All right. So lots and lots of folks here. The link is right there on the page, Jennifer. If you go on my Facebook page, right, and you look at the post, it's pinned at the top. And I also posted it about 2 hours ago. If you scroll down in the feed, you go right into it and you'll see it. Here, let me show you. If you want to know, since you asked, there's the site, there's the post, right? And right at the bottom is the link. See it right there? Click on the link and it'll take you and you have to use the promo code HEATWAVE20. I've not used it yet, but I'm assuming it works because they told me it did. Okay, so let's get back to some what's going on with the weather out there. We have got a lot to talk about. We have got a lot to talk about in the tropics, in our weather pattern, especially in the tropics, because there's 5 waves out there right now, and we'll get into that in a minute. Let's go ahead and talk about what's happening right now with our thunderstorms, all right? Everybody I did not say hi to, that might be it, Deborah, the one in Alturas. That could very well be the video that we're talking about because they emailed it to me. My cough is still here, but it is getting better. Slowly but surely it's getting better. Zephyr Hill is getting slammed again, says Bonnie. Dave, how you doing? Alyssa, hey from Holiday, good to see you. Rick and Monica in Venice, thank you very much. There are tanks that aren't racerbacks, Cindy. I know there are. I know there are because I've seen them. So anyway, Sabatino, how are you doing? Good to see you. Jan in Coastal Manatee. Okay, so let's get back. All right, here's what's going on right now. Obviously, you're still looking at some pretty decent rain. Now, remember, there was a severe thunderstorm warning, and you guys know, and you've heard me talk about this for many, many times. Hi in Orlando. Maria, good to see you. So I personally think that there should be some kind of an advisory for excessive lightning. I've been saying this since the cows came home. At the end of the day, when there's a severe thunderstorm warning, that means there's 60-mile-an-hour winds or 1-inch hail, right? And that's a dangerous thing. But would you argue, I would, that lightning overall is a more excessive threat to public safety in Florida than a severe thunderstorm warning? I would make that argument. That is my opinion. I think there should be an advisory issued from the Weather Service, an excessive lightning advisory. Now, they give updates and say when there is, but there's not a warning per se for excessive lightning. Who creates that criteria? The Weather Service obviously would. But in my opinion, I think that's more of a risk than 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds, in my opinion. So, not that there is going to be that, but I think lightning is a bigger threat than the other. So, and there's a lot of lightning out there. So let's get back to what we were talking about. Shall we? All right. So there's a look at what's going on. You've got your rain and your thunderstorms, especially across northern counties. Citrus and Hernando, this is moving in over the last hour. Let's go ahead and put this in motion. Stick around for the tropical talk. You're going to want to stick around for that. Telling you, I'm gonna be talking tropics, and I ain't pulling any punches today. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think is going to happen. All right, so there's a look at Hernando and Citrus County. It's all moving northwest. No warnings at this point, but again, that just means there's no 60-mile-an-hour winds or 1-inch hail. There's torrential downpours. There's lots of lightning. Dade City, the WC, also picking up some pretty heavy rain. Zephyr Hills, San Antonio, not Texas, Pasco County. Northern Hillsborough County. I mean, there's just been some solid rain. Pinellas, you haven't seen a lot. I mean, there's been some, but Pinellas hasn't seen quite as much as others, but there's still more moving into Pinellas. You can see that right here. Over toward Feather Sound, picking up some very heavy rain, some lightning. And then moving through northern Pinellas. So, bottom line, this is what we're talking about, my friends. The rainy season is here. And what is yeah, Adam, there was a drowning yesterday. I know. There was a rip current drowning in Johns Pass. It's just, oh yeah, Bridget, thank you. Yeah, the promo code HEATWAVE20. I'm using it tonight. I guarantee you I'm gonna spend $750 on hoodies and presents and stuff for Christmas. I just know I am. And for me, because I gotta upgrade it. You know, I've got the OG, the blue one's been around for 2 or 3 years. I need the new logos because I love the new logos. Anyway, so we are in a southeast regime 6. If you remember last year, the Weather Service on their site has a really nice listing of all their regimes, and they're based on wind direction on the low levels. And those low-level wind directions are huge in terms of the direction in which the rains are going to come. All right, so we are in a regime 6, which is an east-southeast flow, and that brings the rains all the way across the state right back into us. That is exactly what we've been needing. We didn't get it last year. We are this year. And based on the positioning of high pressure over us and off to our east, I think we are going to stay in that east-southeast flow for probably 80% of the next 6 weeks. Now, what does that mean? All right, well, there's a look outside right now. It's a thunderstorm at the airport, 82 degrees, east winds, gusting up to 20 miles an hour. 92 the high today, so today was about normal. Morning low dropped down to 79. It's all moving east-southeast to northwest. Now, so if the pattern were to stay the same, and it won't because there's all these little variables that come into play, right? It isn't just one wind field. You've got all the boundaries kicking in from the other storms. You've got the Bay breeze, you've got the Gulf breeze, but at the end of the day, the prevailing wind pattern has been out of the east-southeast. And the main reason that is the case is it's because the positioning of high pressure either over us or off to the east. And here it is. Now, this is a look at where all the different tropical waves are. There's one there, there's another one here. The thing, and here's Florida right here, by the way, if you can't see it. So this is going to get into my hurricane discussion. But I mean, if you look how strong and how solid high pressure is in the Atlantic, that is absolutely going to come into play in the month of August and September in hurricane season. Now, you guys know my affinity for Tropical Tidbits, Levi Cohen's site. It's a great site, and I know a lot of you have gone from that site from here. Occasionally, I'll show some maps from him. You can always contribute to Levi's page by tropicaltidbits.com. You go and hit support Tropical Tidbits. This is the Euro. And here is what I want you to see real quick. You look at where that high is, right? No, I didn't want to do that, but that is a really cool thing. You actually got the sounding right there that comes up for there. But you look at where this high is. This is going to be the key to our hurricane season, at least in the broad scale. Why is that? Well, because where that high is, look where it's anchored, right? Look where it's anchored. If high pressure extends into Florida, without much of an opportunity for anything to curve around it, you are going to get storms that are going to be pushed either into the Caribbean or pushed into the islands or pushed into Florida or possibly the Southeast. It all hinges on where that big blue high is, right? And that also has a huge impact on our rainy season, because if that high is sitting there, and there's other ones closer by, of course, but at the end of the day, if you've got that ridge hanging out for the most part and rebuilding throughout the next 6 to 8 weeks, you would expect to see whatever's out, and see, look, the high rebuilds. Look at that, got a little development out there. But you would expect to see the high pushing whatever's out there into the Caribbean or into the southeastern part of the U.S. This is the GFS, okay? The GFS is showing that ridge pretty solid. The Euro is actually showing, I'll go ahead and show it to you. The Euro, actually, that's day 10. You can see, look at what the Euro has day 10. I mean, a weak system coming in from the Caribbean. But I will not discount that. There's your high, right? Look at your high again. Look where it is, right in the middle of the ocean. See it? Look where the impacts, how far out the impacts of that high extend. Oh, I did the sounding thing again. All right. So just, and I went back to the GFS. That's what happened before. I went back to the GFS because of that. Stand by, because I want to show you this. Okay, so we'll start up here. Look at where that high is, and look at how far west it extends. See the isobars? All the way out here. Now, if this high were far enough in this direction, and you could get around it and curve in that direction, then you're looking at more fish storms, or maybe the Outer Banks of the Carolinas. But if this high is going to continue to impact areas pretty far to the west, then you're going to get a track that's going to whatever forms out there these days is going to either be more Caribbean-based, Gulf of Mexico-based, or Southeast United States-based. The Euro does develop something 10 days out. Obviously, it's bringing it into Florida. It's not a particularly strong system, but the point is, it doesn't matter what's showing here because it's not there yet, and it's probably not going to be there. But my point is, what's more important is not what forms, because look, we know stuff is going to form. I'll show you that in a second. We know stuff is going to form. What we need to keep an eye on is how strong this ridge is and how far west it's going to push anything that does develop. And that is the key to the forecast. So when you look at the latest Climate Prediction Center update, it is obviously showing what the Euro is showing. Between the end of July and August 6th, a 20 to 40% chance of something developing in that general vicinity, right? And look at where the track is, more south and west as opposed to a more northerly turn. That's next week. Look at the following week. Another system, the same thing. A west track, drier air above, which is high pressure, pushing stuff more south and west. So this isn't going to tell us if there's going to be individual systems developing. You can't look at it like that. But what you look at, and this is what I was talking about today when I was kind of pushing, hey, season's getting more active. Not that individual storms are expected to develop, or can we track them 2 weeks out? No. But when we see the overall upper level pattern and that ridge holding true in the North Atlantic, the way that it is, and building west, elongating, it's going to move back and forth. But more often than not, it has more of a westward component, and that is going to drive whatever's out there more west and not as likely to make more of a curvature into the North Atlantic. There's all these little variables that come into play. We're not talking about individual forecasts, but what we're looking at is a trend that I would expect to see come to fruition in the month of August and September. So The farther east that high goes, the better for the United States. Simple, because it's going to curve around. The farther west that ridge builds, the more likely it could have more of an impact on the United States. Not necessarily Florida. Maybe, I will tell you, what I am a little concerned about are the islands, Puerto Rico, whatnot, because certainly when you get this kind of a setup, I mean, look, just look. I mean, it pretty much brings both of these right into the islands. Now, again, this is not, this is actually saying a 20 to 40% chance of something developing. I'm not even going that far. I'm not giving any probabilities on development at this point. But what I am talking about is the overall pattern that's trying to push stuff west. That concerns me. Maybe not for us, maybe for South Florida, maybe for the Panhandle, maybe for the Western Gulf, maybe for the Western Caribbean. But the point is, it minimizes the threat, no, not the threat, the likelihood of a curving to the North Atlantic when you get this kind of a setup. And that is not good. Because if stuff goes west in the Caribbean and eventually goes in the Gulf, it's going to hit somebody. Once a storm goes in the Gulf, there's no way out. It's going to hit someone, right? So that's why I'm saying today, and you read between the lines, and anybody who's followed me long enough knows I'm more on the, don't worry about it, we're going to be fine kind of thing. The positioning and the setup of the ridging over the next 4 to 6 weeks is somewhat concerning. Not necessarily for us, but for the U.S. and the Caribbean. All right? So now I talk about that here. We're looking at Futurecast, and look, now on the plus side, when we get this kind of a setup, this locks us into this kind of an east to west flow and gives us a lot of rain every day. So the positive part about this is it's going to really be good news for our rain potential. Okay? So now I want to show you the tropics real quick. All right? And there's nothing to worry about. Let me check if the NHC has changed anything. I don't think they have. Nope. No development over the next 7 days. That's awesome. But I want you to look at some stuff here. First of all, see the little spin right there? Look at the little spin. See that? Nothing. No big deal. No worries, right? Okay. Now, no development expected over the next 7 days. Let's be very clear. We are not saying anything is going to develop. At 7:52 and 41 seconds, we are saying nothing is expected to develop, okay? But I want you to count how many little areas of spin we have here. Now, the reason they're not developing, there's 4, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, that reminds me of my cousin Vinny. How many bushes? 5. All right, so my point is, okay, that waves are coming off of Africa, as they will do. Usually you can get 50 to 100 waves that come off of Africa during a hurricane season. We've got all the Saharan dust out there. And by the way, it's still there. So you look out at all that deep Saharan dust out in the Atlantic. It's there almost every July. It's very common, right? We get it. It's been great. But almost assuredly, and there's people on Facebook today saying, well, you know, you guys, you might be wrong. Look, we're not wrong in the fact that there's going to be a lot of storms developing. We're just not. There's no way around it. There's going to be. Doesn't mean they're going to hit anybody. But when I say we are going to get a high number of developing storms, we are, I mean, not just that I'm saying that, I'm just telling you, we are. The bigger concern is the direction in which they may be traveling. Again, not necessarily for West Central Florida at all. But if we see anything in the general vicinity of the United States or the islands, you know, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican, we don't want to see that. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. I do. I think we're going to see a lot of tracks from mid-August right to the end of October. And with all those waves going on that we talked about, right? When that Saharan dust retreats north, which it always does, at that point, there won't be anything to hinder development. And we use Beryl as an example. Beryl turned into a Cat 5 hurricane in a time that there's never been a Cat 5 hurricane before. I mean, you saw how it tapped all that warm water and all that energy. I'm not saying that that's going to happen with all of them. It clearly won't. There's a lot of other variables that come into play. I'm just saying, as we go into the month of August, everybody needs to have their plan ready. And, you know, the kit and everything, yes, I get it. But more to me than a kit is a plan of attack. Because you know a lot of people are going to be waiting to the last minute if we ever get a storm coming this way, and then they're going to be freaking out, and they're going to run to Lowe's and Home Depot. They're not going to be taping their windows and whatever, right? You got to at least have a plan. Even if you don't have the amount of water that you need, and even if you don't have this or that, at least know what and where you're going to do for your family and your own safe. That's at the bare minimum, know that. And by the way, when it comes to hurricane season and evacuations, a lot of people go hundreds of miles. You might only need to go 10 miles, 5 miles. Hide from the wind, run from the water. And if you're on the coast and you're in a flood zone and a storm's coming, you might only want to go 5 miles inland. The majority of the time, surge is only a real major concern for maybe 200 or 300 yards inland. You might get some surge in farther, but typically, historically, the bulk of the surge is literally no more than 200 or 300 yards inland. The wind, if you're talking a Cat 3, 4, or 5, it's still going to be an issue, right? Okay. Lisa, how you doing? Good to see you. So anyway, my point in all of this today, that looks like a dolphin or a whale. See his head and his little nose in the front? All right, so let's go back. I'm going to show you this one more time. Climate Prediction Center came out with their 2-week update today. Experimental. Where's Vincent? Experimental week 2. This is not to be looked at as where development is going to occur. However, they are predicting there's a 20 to 40% chance of tropical development in this region the first week in August. And there's a 20 to 40% chance of development in this region. What do you see? You see the same track. You see a similar path, and you see drier air above it as high pressure sits there. So I'll say it again for those in the back of the room. My concern is not with any individual storm. I'm not saying you're going to get a storm on this date. My concern is the pattern is setting up that when something does develop, when it does, and I think we're pretty confident things will develop, whatever that is, there's a higher probability it will travel more west than north. That's all we're saying. But that is a significant thing, because when we start getting one after another, and it's a conga line, then all of a sudden we're looking at a higher risk wherever that be. The Southeast, the Outer Banks, South Florida, the Panhandle, Southwest Florida, New Orleans, any of the places, right? The usual spots. Okay? Yes, Vincent, I have said that 11 billion times. Statistically speaking, the Tampa Bay area is no higher at risk, no matter what the pattern is, than any other pattern. Look at the numbers. You can say meteorologically, well, the odds seem like they would be higher if there's going to be more storms. The numbers just don't bear that out. They just don't. 103 years since a major hurricane's hit the Bay Area directly. 25% chance every 4 years, 1 in every 4 years, that we'll have a hurricane within 50 miles of our coastline. But there is no statistical relationship between an increase in a direct landfall in the Tampa Bay area and an increased season. It doesn't exist. Look at the numbers. So, am I saying that that the Bay Area is not going to get one? You did not hear me say that. In fact, you've heard me say many times, we all know we're going to at some point. But statistically speaking, it does not exist, that relationship, all right? So, back to our weather locally right now. We continue to see what will be a very active stretch of weather. Afternoon and evening thunderstorms each and every day for the next week to 10 days. That's as far out as we'll go. The long-range pattern looks very promising for significant rains each day, coverage at about 60 to 70%. And that's going to do wonders for our drought. we'll see how that same feature has an impact on the tropical season for the next couple of days. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow with another DPL Plus and back on Thursday on DPL streamers. Okay, so the streamers are gone. And now I can answer questions. Let's look at radar again real quick. Bree in Altamont Springs, how you doing? Okay. So still some solid rain. Let's look at rainfall totals. Yeah, I got the OG. Like I said, if you were just tuning in, I got the OG sweatshirt because I left the other one at home. The place that we buy our T-shirts and hoodies and stuff from, they're offering 20% off for every purchase until the 26th, I believe. So you have to use the promo code HEATWAVE20. I showed it a minute ago. I'll show it one more time. And there are just some really awesome hoodies, T-shirts, bags, cups, mugs, all 20% off. Not on the Etsy page. Not on the Etsy page. It's only on the Teespring page, which I just posted the link. Adam, there's your Hurricanes. There's some raised colors. There's a different logo that we created. I'm excited about this. I'm going to go home tonight. I'm going to buy just a ton of this stuff. There's Bucks colors, USF colors. And again, as we said, there's stuff for pets. There's a pet shirt. That's a DPL shirt for pets. Look at that. Drinkware. There's glasses, pint glasses. There you go. There's mugs. But the apparel, the hoodies and whatnot, all right there with lots and lots of different stuff. So I'm really excited about that as well. Again, there's a look at the radar. And it's all moving northwest. Let's see how much rain we've had today. I won't steer you around, Vicky. You are correct. I won't. All right, let's go. Let's look and see how much rain we've had in the last 24 hours. So, I mean, this is just solid numbers here. So here's the rain that we've had in the last 24 hours. Citrus County in the blue, 2 inches of rain. The area in purple, that's just north of Dade City. That's 4.5 inches of rain. It's in 24 hours, folks. Spring Hill, nearly 3 inches of rain. And then yet, look here, nothing. From Trinity to Newport Richey to Holiday, not Tarpon Springs. Palm Harbor, actually, surprisingly. That's not right, because there's been some rain there today. It hasn't updated yet. But there is all that rain in the last 24 hours. And here's the even better news. This pattern is not going to change. The amount of moisture, okay, so what do I mean by that? The amount of moisture will change. There will be drier stretches. But as long as we can get that east to west flow, we are going to see afternoon thunderstorms in July and August. It's inevitable. It's incredibly rare with that kind of a pattern for the air to be so dry. PWs are 2.5 right now, precipitable water, 2.5 inches. So, I mean, the atmosphere is juiced. So we've got all the moisture we need. We've got the pattern where the winds are blowing the rain in the right direction. It's all good. And it's literally a 180 from what we did last year. And that's because last year we had troughs digging down on the eastern third of the U.S. We had a lot of troughs. And those west winds with that trough pushed the rain in the opposite direction. This year, we don't have those troughs impacting us as much. We are more ridging, and that ridging is bringing us rain. But alas, that ridging could also have a pretty big impact on hurricane season. Nicolette, how are you doing? All right, so let me see. Anybody else have any questions? Tomorrow night, I think we are doing a DPL Plus. It's either Kyle, I'm trying to remember. It's one of our sports guys. We're going to be talking about Bucks training camp. May sprinkle in a little fantasy football stuff tomorrow. And of course, I will still give an update on the storms and whatnot as well. Because it's DPL Plus, but it's still DPL. So it's DPL Plus. So we'll still have our rain, we'll still have our storms, we'll talk about that, and then we'll have Kyle or Kevin to talk about the Bucks, how the Bucks are looking, and talking some fantasy football. And I'm just saying, I've now won my fantasy football league 3 years in a row. So believe it or not, I don't need to stay in my lane of fantasy football. Jules, you know, I mean, that's my thing. I'm a big fantasy football guy. And then we'll be back with the regular DPL on Thursday as well. Shay is on vacation this week, so I'm working the long shift, and Greg's working the morning long shift, and I'm working the afternoon long shift, so I will be here. Got some rain in Hudson, Barbara. I saw that. Congratulations. How was Twisters? Meteorologically wise, Judith asked. You know what? It was very entertaining. It was good. So here's my take on Twisters. I liked the characters. I thought the movie was a better character-driven than the first one. You know, the first one's a classic. I get it. But obviously the tornadoes were way better in this one because the CGI is better than it was 30 years ago when Twisters came out. But, you know, a lot of the women are going to swoon on, what's his face, the guy from Top Gun. My family did, you know, a great-looking guy. And the meteorologist, you know, they were a good couple. It was almost like a rom-com kind of a feel to it, which I wasn't expected, and I liked it. I liked the characters. I thought the plot was fine. The meteorology was solid. There was one thing that they said that I picked up on early in the movie. They were trying to forecast where some storms and tornadoes were going to form. And one of the guys was looking on his laptop and he said, oh, the Doppler's forecasting this. Da-da-da. Now, Dopplers don't forecast the weather. Doppler radar is a live, real-time slice of the atmosphere. So that was the only thing that I noted that I caught right off the bat. And that was literally one of the first things in the movie. It's like, oh, man, here we go. But after that, no. Matter of fact, it was kind of funny because there were two tornadoes that were spinning around, and one of the meteorologists in the movie was trying to come up with the name, and he's like this, and he's trying to remember the name, and I whispered over to my son, it's Fujiwara. And then like a second later, he goes, oh, Fujiwara. Jake looks at me, he's like, Dad, I mean, come on. Now, usually we talk about Fujiwara with hurricanes. It's just two areas of low pressure rotating around each other, kind of a dance, if you will, a pinwheel effect, but it happens in tornadoes as well. So anyway, I thought the movie was very good. I mean, the chase scenes were fun. You know, they talked about cloud seeding, and that kind of led into her, the main character's goal of taming hurricanes, tornadoes. That is her goal in the movie. She wants to tame twisters so they don't hurt people. You know, and whether or not what they were doing is realistic, I don't even care, because it was pretty entertaining. So I liked it. That was good. No, you're fine, Lauren. It's all fine, I promise you. You too, Sherry. So I guess that's about it. I like him because Tom and I and Wendy are all the same height. So I've missed some of this. Oh, someone's saying about hurricanes. No. Again, if you're just tuning in, look, we'll quickly mention that, let me switch graphics up. That's our 20% off for the next 3 days for rule number 7 stuff. That's not what I was talking about. The Euro is bringing in 10 days some kind of a system in from the southeast. Whether or not that happens is way too early to know, but I'll say it again, as long as you've got high pressure stacked in the Atlantic, such as it is, there is nowhere for a system to go but this way. There is just no way, right? So nothing is more important over the next 2 months than just how elongated ridging in the Atlantic extends. That will be more important than how many storms develop, because we know storms are going to develop. We know they're going to develop, period. I don't care what, people, how do you know? We know. It's going to happen. So they're going to develop. So we are hoping that this ridge either shifts east or weakens and allows more of a curvature back in the North Atlantic. But as long as this ridge stays solid, it is going to drive whatever's out there in this general direction, which is why this particular graphic right here shows next week a 20 to 40% chance of development. And this is the Euro. This track is exactly what the Euro is showing. I mean, there it is, right? Look, I mean, you go back, there's your high. I mean, look at it. There's your high. There's your high. Tropical Tidbit site. You can support Levi on the side at the top. It's a great site. You guys know this. I love his site. The guy's brilliant. Anyway, there's your high, and it kind of forces it, whatever it is, right into Florida. Whatever. That's fantasy land at this point. But again, it all depends on where the ridges are. And the next week, it shows the exact same thing. And when you see, what in the world is that? When you, what happened to that? It disappeared. It went bye-bye. Anyway, when you see those ridges located where they are, there's just, no way around it. Whatever's out there is going to go west. All right? Yeah, Denise, it's a movie. It's a movie. Okay, so let me see. What have I missed? Anything? No Snuggle Alerts, Adam. That'll be, but there are some Snuggle Alerts shirts, I think, somewhere out there. Thank you, Denise. I appreciate it. So I think that's it. All right. Bill, how you doing? Good to see you. All right. One last look at live radar real quick. And yeah, it's still looking, I'll tell you, boy, there's still some pretty solid. I mean, look at Pinellas now. Remember when we said about 10 minutes ago Pinellas had any rain? Never mind. They have now. Look at that. So there you go. I mean, this is just, it's great because the coverage is so solid. I mean, we're probably ending up with about 80% coverage today. And there's no reason to think that we're not going to see it again tomorrow. Historically, August is our rainiest month of the year. And this is why. Because more often than not, you've got ridging with an east to southeast wind, lots of moisture this time of the year from July through the end of August. The rainy season technically begins early June, but I think we all know for our area, it really doesn't kick in until mid-July and last until the end of August. So my son Josh is calling. Just a second. Hey, Josh, we are live on DPL. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just calling you to tell you how crazy this rain is.
Yeah, I can hear the rain pouring. Where are you?
I'm driving on 19 in Clearwater.
Yeah, be careful. It's insane. I'm looking at it right now. Although it's going to get better once you probably hit just past where the Thresher Stadium is.
Okay, yeah, I just saw like 2 crazy lightning strikes at the same time.
Yeah, all right, cool. Thanks for the update. Be safe.
Bye.
I love you. Bye. Okay, that was Josh Phillips giving an update on the crazy rain in Clearwater right now. So, is that about it? I think. And there it is, obviously. It is pouring. Don't be anxious, Cindy. All is good. All is good, okay? We're just reminding people to have a plan in case something. And I'll say this again. Look, I'm talking about the Gulf Coast, the East Coast, the Outer Banks, South Florida, everywhere. It's all in that same threat area. But we all know that the west central part of Florida historically has a lower risk of a direct landfall. And that is a fact. It doesn't mean we're not going to see one. I think we all know at some point we are. But it is much more difficult for our area to things to come together to be hit directly than many other areas. Now, you think of 2004, that was a year you don't want to remember because we got hit 3 times. Francis, Jean, Charlie. But overall, I'm just throwing it out there that yes, August and September are going to be active months, so have your plan and be prepared now, okay? Okay, so let me see. Do we have any questions? Peggy's bringing the obligatory leaf blower out, which we often get that. It might work from time to time. Shady Hills is in the house with Mary. How are you? Bridget's quoting Toto, as she would, because Bridget is a super Toto fan. Kitty's first hurricane, that cat, every night now, that cat is in the middle of the night coming and jumps right on my face. Like literally jumps on my face and lays down on my face and just like falls asleep. No idea how I got to be the guy that he wants to. Well, Ivan didn't hit us, Daniel. Ivan hit the panhandle. Okay. All right. I guess that is it. We will be back tomorrow night with DPL Plus. Okay. And we'll be back on Thursday with another DPL as well. Have a safe night. If you live in Pinellas County, it is really coming down. And Pasco, too, for that matter. I mean, everybody's getting this. I mean, look at that. Look at that right there. All of Hillsborough, all of Pinellas, all of Pasco, all of Hernando, all of Citrus, all getting rain right now. Glorious rain. It's glorious. So be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow night on our next edition of Denis Phillips Live. Except tomorrow night is DPL Plus. All right, we'll see you then. Night, guys.